One thing we all use every day is water. It's really important to us in a lot of different ways. It even makes up about 71% of our Earth's surface. We depend on water for countless things in order to just survive. However, as time passes, the human population continues to take our water for granted by polluting it, such as throwing our trash into water. Eventually, the water will get so polluted that we won't even be able to use it, eventually decreasing the human population because we need water to live. Even though water pollution does greatly affect us, obviously, um, we're not the only things impacted by it. It even impacts the environment around us. Water pollution affects the species that inhabit the water and increases the effects of acid rain and can even cause aquatic species habitat destruction. However, there are ways we can start preventing this pollution from spreading so rapidly, and we can start protecting our waters better.
Water pollution is a real serious problem. Water pollutions have many harmful effects on coral reefs, which are very important as they contain one of the most diverse ecosystems on the planet. But due to high amounts of water pollution, they're dying. It is predicted that over 90% of the Earth's coral reefs will be dead by 2050. The Great Barrier Reef, which is the world's biggest coral reef, is also dying. It has over 2,900 individual reefs and is surrounded by over 900 islands. Two-thirds of the corals in the northern part of the Great Barrier Reef have already died, and the rest of it will too if nothing is done to stop the water pollution. Water pollutants have many harmful effects on coral reefs. They can smother them, increase the growth of damaging algae, and lower water quality. When water quality is low, it slows down the coral reef's growth and reproduction, makes them more susceptible to disease, and also affects the animals living in them. When the plants in the coral reefs die and decay, the amount of dissolved oxygen is lowered. When the level of dissolved oxygen drops too low, the fish will not be able to survive and begin to die. Besides being one of the most diverse ecosystems on the planet, they also protect coastlines from the damaging effects that can be caused by waves and tropical storms. Coral reefs are home to a quarter of all marine species. This includes over 4,000 species of fish. It is also home to 6 of the world's 7 species of marine turtles and 30 species of marine mammals. The turtles that have made the Great Barrier Reef their home are all either considered vulnerable or endangered. Also considered vulnerable is the dugong, which is a marine mammal that's primary feeding area is the Great Barrier Reef. Besides the animals living there, over 500 million people depend on the coral reefs. They depend on it for food. They are a habitat to thousands of edible fish species that would be difficult and very expensive to reproduce artificially. When the coral reefs are gone, many of these fish may die or will have to relocate in order to survive. This will leave 500 million people on Earth without a source of food. Not only are the coral reefs needed for food and resources, they are also good for the economy. Coral reefs have an annual global economic value of $375 billion. Other than the many benefits of coral reefs, they are one of nature's most beautiful creations. They are filled with color and are beautiful to look at. The Great Barrier Reef in Australia has over 2 million visitors each year to experience its beauty. If nothing is done about water pollution, the coral reefs will die.
There are many ways that humans have been affected by water pollution. However, the harmful effects of pollution go way beyond this in the form of acid rain. Acid rain includes any form of precipitation with acidic components. such as sulfuric or nitric acid that fall to the ground from the atmosphere in wet or dry forms. This can include rain, snow, fog, hail, or even dust that is acidic. When sulfur dioxide, which is SO2, and nitrogen oxides, NO, are released into the atmosphere and transported by wind and air currents, acid rain is the result. SO2 and NO react with water, oxygen, and other chemicals to form sulfuric and nitric acids. Most of the cause of acid rain comes from the burning of fossil fuels. Vehicles, heavy equipment, manufacturing, oil refineries, and electric-powered generators are all sources of SO2 and NO in the atmosphere. The ecological effects of acid rain are more clearly seen in aquatic environments, such as streams, lakes, and marshes, where it can be harmful to fish and other wildlife. Acidic rainwater can filter aluminum from soil clay particles and then flow into streams and lakes. Most plants and animals are acid sensitive and will be lost as the pH declines. According to the United States Environmental Protection Agency, at pH of 5, most fish eggs cannot hatch. At lower pH levels, some adult fish die. Some acidic lakes have no fish. Even if a species of fish or animals can tolerate moderately acidic water, the animals or plants it eats might not. Dead or dying trees are also a common factor seen in areas that are affected by acid rain. Acid rain filters out aluminum from the soil. The aluminum released from this is harmful to animals and plants. EPA also states that at high elevations, acidic fog and clouds might strip nutrients from trees' foliage, leaving them with brown or dead leaves and needles. The trees are then less able to absorb sunlight, which makes them weak and less able to withstand freezing temperatures. Trees play an important role in water conservation. Trees manage rainwater in storm events by intercepting rainfall in the foliage, which prevents water runoff, absorbing and filling water that infiltrates into the soil. Trees also improve water quality by reducing soil erosion. Therefore, when trees are harmed, this then affects water.
A problem that water pollution causes is that it will kill off fish and it harms the living creatures inside of the water. Nitrogen and phosphorus are nutrients that become water pollutants when they enter rivers, lakes, and oceans through runoff, such as rainwashing, excessive fertilizer from a lawn into a lake, or direct discharge when a sewage treatment plant pumps preceded sewage into a river. Fish feed off invertebrates that live in the water. Take away this food source and they will either die or starve or move to a new habitat. These invertebrates include water insects, pesticides that are toxic to them whenever the pollution enters the water. So whenever they're eating their prey that have been affected by the pollution will cause them to die. Dead fish, crabs, birds, and seagulls, dolphins, and many other animals often wind up on beaches, killed by pollutants in their habitat. Pollution disrupts the natural food chain as well. Water is essential to our lives. We need water in order to live. For an example, in an adult man, about 60% of his body is made up of water. It doesn't need to be spelled out exactly how important water is to us. Yet, water pollution is one of the most serious threats that we face today. Water pollution happens when toxics enter the water bodies such as lakes, rivers, oceans, and so on, getting dissolved in them and lying suspended in the water or depositing on the bed. This degrades the quality of water. Not only does this spell out disaster for aquatic ecosystems, the pollutants also seep through and reach groundwater, which might end up in our household as contaminated water we use in our daily activities, including drinking. For an example, some people drink straight from the tap, and imagine having that advantage took away from you because we pollute the water. Water pollution can be caused in a number of ways. One of the most polluting being city sewage and industrial waste discharge. Indirect sources of water pollution include contaminants that enter the water supply from soils or groundwater systems and from the atmosphere, such as rain. Soil and groundwater contain the residue of human agriculture practices and Also, improperly disposed of industrial waste. Pollutants can include several different kinds: organic, inorganic, radioactive, and so on. In fact, the list of possible water contaminants continues.
While there are many problems with water pollution, there are also many solutions. Solutions include practicing responsible use of fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides. Surface runoff of pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers into water bodies changes the water body's natural ecosystem. These chemicals can kill plants, insects, and animals in and around the affected waters, as well as create an environment that is costly to recover. Another solution is minimizing stormwater runoff. Whether a small home-based project or a large commercial construction project with a little advanced planning, you can minimize water pollution from stormwater runoff on your property or site and avoid costly fines. Any soil that is exposed without some sort of erosion control in place is subject to wind and water erosion. Even though sediment erosion is a natural form of water pollution, it is more of an impact than you realize. Sediments in aquatic environments screens out sunlight, changes the water temperature, inhibits photosynthesis, disrupts the food chain, and ultimately leads to decline of the species in the water ecosystem. Another solution is to filter runoff. Stormwater lands in ditches or culverts. A ditch check can be used to filter the runoff, preventing sediment pollution and trash from exiting the property. Standing water such as ponds, trenches, and holding areas can be filtered using dewatering products, where water is pumped into a bag, capturing any sediment and releasing water. Another solution is to contain spills. Although a small leak from your car or a storage drum may seem minor, it is extremely important to absorb or contain those spills and to keep them from entering watershed as a harmful pollutant. Secondary contaminant berms and basins help catch and contain hazmat leaks and spills for proper disposal. Products such as foam wall spill berms allow access for vehicles to drive on the berm to contain leaky vehicles, while there are also many spill berms to store drum, paint containers, fuel tanks, and other hazmat materials. Another solution is to protect curb inlets and drains. Storm drains are just for rain. Water that flows into a storm drain and down a curb inlet usually runs directly into streams, rivers, lakes, and other water sources. This makes protecting storm drains extremely important because that water is not only a habitat to animals and plants, but is also used to supply our drinking water. There are countless products on the market to help filter runoff and protect stormwater drains. Curb guards can be bulky and in the way of cars and pedestrians, but there are invisible traffic-friendly curb guards. Options too. A final solution that can help water pollution is to capture and filter sediment-laden water in waterways. Shoreline construction products disturb and expose soil, creating situations where exposed soil is washed into the nearby water body. This creates a murky sediment-laden water that has a significant negative impact on the marine environment. It harms all of the aquatic life in the area, including plants, fish, insects, and animals. Turbid water can also be created by events that stir up the sediment on the marine floor. For example, a pipe or a stream that discharges into the water body at a high velocity stirs up the sediment on the floor and creates turbidity. Dredging projects and in-water construction projects also generate water turbidity and needs to be managed. Turbidity barriers are the most common solution for controlling sediment-filled waters. They are floating barriers designed to contain a turbid water. And those are just a few of the solutions that can help keep the water and the earth clean.
There are many reasons to not pollute water, but the most important reason is to not pollute it so that our fresh water doesn't become even more scarce. Saving our fresh water has become a detrimental aspect to our sustainability. Fresh water is necessary for our survival. We use it every day and it's the source of our health and environment. Millions of people across the world do not have access to this fresh water and suffer because of this. 1.6 billion people die every year due to diarrheal diseases caused by lack of safe drinking water. We need to conserve our water instead of constantly deprecating it with trash, fertilizers, and oils. Despite common belief, there isn't much fresh water left on the earth. Only around 3% of all the water on earth is fresh and clean, and most of that is trapped in glaciers, which means we cannot access it or use it in any way. Also, acid rain is another leading cause of pollution and is created mostly by the burning of fossil fuels. Acid rain is harmful to aquatic wildlife by altering the pH of water. In order to pollute less water, we need to burn less fossil fuels. In conclusion, water pollution affects everyone and everything. Water pollution is a serious issue that can lead to acid rain and aquatic habitat destruction, especially in coral reefs. We need to start appreciating our fresh water and using it appropriately and responsibly.